I would never describe strong immigration policy as racist.
A couple of quick ones on the ECHR to kind of play devil's advocate. There are people who will say this will make us an international pariah, like Russia pulling out of ECHR. What's your response to that?
Canada's not in the ECHR. They're not a pariah. Neither is Australia, neither is the US or New Zealand. We need to stop using these silly arguments to stop us from doing the right thing. What, in my view, makes us a pariah is having the issue of grooming gangs where we have foreigners raping our little girls and we can't even deport them. That is what we should be ashamed of.
To pick up a couple of the bits in the borders package at a top level, there is this force that is going to round up and deport as many as 150,000 people every year. I mean, do you really think that's realistic?
Yes.
I think I worked it out. It's about 420 people a day, about somebody every 4 minutes needs to be deported to hit that target.
Well, this is one of the things that we've been trying to highlight, that quite a lot of the things stopping us from deporting are legal barriers. They're not physical barriers. And we can fund this. We've looked at how we can fund it. We'll be setting out details of that. We're going to need to hire people. We're going to need to make sure that we staff up such a removals force, but it can be done. But there will also be a deterrent effect as well, which is quite important. It's not just about removing people who should not be here. It's about stopping those people who should never get here in the first place from staying. And that is in our borders plan.
It's all pretty Trumpian, isn't it? Isn't this a plan that Donald Trump would love?
I wouldn't be surprised if he loved it, but what's really important is that people in this country will like it. We will do this compassionately as well. There are lots of people who speak recklessly about immigration. This is something that we've got to do very carefully. We're talking about people's lives, families, how we make sure we do this in a way that is both firm and tough, but also compassionate. We're the only party that can deliver that.
It seems to me, reading your plan, that you have drawn a firm line in deportations, that you don't want to deport people who are here legally, which is something that Reform is now saying they will do. Is that correct? And do you think Farage's policy is racist?
I would never describe strong immigration policy as racist. But if people are here legally, that's a totally different thing from people who are here illegally. I mean, you raised the question of do we have the capacity to remove the people who are here illegally, let alone expanding that to people who settled here, who have lives here. What we need to do is make sure that everybody who is here is contributing. People who come to our country need to be contributing. They can't be people who need welfare, who need social housing. That means that British citizens are paying for foreigners to have that. But, we want wealthy, successful, really smart, talented people in our country. We're not going to be deporting, Americans and, people who are bringing in not just skills and talent, but money. We want investors here. So this is what I mean by being firm and tough, but sensible and compassionate. Simply speaking recklessly, we're going to deport people here and there without working it through. That terrifies people. We're not here to be making people scared. We are a fantastic country. We are humane. We are fair. But quite frankly, a lot of people have been taking us for a ride for a long time. And what I'm saying now is enough. Our kindness is being exploited. We're going to toughen up our system.
Can we talk a bit about how you found the role, approaching a year now? Well, let's start with how you'd rate yourself a year in.
People keep asking me marks out of 10. The marks out of 10 that I will give myself is whether or not we win the next general election. That's what I was elected to do by the members of the party. But I have been very consistent. The party knew what my agenda was. I said I wasn't going to rush out with policies until we had plans. I didn't say I'd take 4 or 5 years. I said we're going to think it all through and then you see it. What we're doing on the ECHR and on the borders proposals, that is what I'm talking about. Very thorough, very comprehensive. It's not wearing a sparkly jumpsuit and singing and hoping that people vote for you. That's, it's fun to watch, but it's not going to make people's lives better. This is what's going to make people's lives better. That's what I said, and I know that lots of people wanted everything to be fixed immediately. I would have loved to have performed miracles. I am an engineer, not a miracle performer. This is the way it goes. Anything that's worth having is worth doing properly and is rarely done quickly. And that's what I'm showing.
Has it been different at all to what you expected the leadership? Has it been harder than you thought it would be?
No, not at all. People told me not to do this. They said, this is the worst job in politics. Why on earth would you want to do it? You've been business secretary, go into the private sector. You've had a good political career. But I'm just worried about my country. I want my children to grow up in the same country that I grew up in, a Britain which has, freedom at the heart of everything, strong British values of equality under the law, meritocracy, a strong support for business. We are pro-enterprise, pro-capitalism, fair. And it's changing. You can feel it. You can see it. There is fragmentation. We are the only party that can bring people together. And if that is something which I can do, then I'm prepared to make the sacrifice for it. And I am actually enjoying it as well.
Oh, yes.
I like doing tough things, and I like proving people wrong. So when a lot of people criticize and say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, they've been telling me this all my life, and I've always confounded them, and I will again.
Political parties often obsess about the opinion polls, but it is an indication of where voters are thinking. So what's the message to MPs? Don't panic about the polls.
Hold your nerve.
Hold your nerve.
Hold your nerve. We are the only party that can deliver a stronger economy and stronger borders. If we don't hold our nerve, we are giving our country up. That is not right.
I think critics will say, how long do they need to hold their nerve? Is there a point when you think there needs to be tangible improvement in the polls? Or
there will be tangible improvement, but it never happens overnight. The last oppositions took 14, 13, 18 years. People have been asking me why the polls haven't improved within, a couple of weeks of being leader. And one of the things that does happen when you've got a challenger party, a protest party, and the government party is doing so well, is that people start voting none of the above because they think it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just local elections. It's just a by-election. We'll vote none of the above. They are expressing their frustration. We need to give them an answer. And that's one of the things that our borders plan, the leaving the ECHR, and so many of the exciting things which I hope you will be reporting at our conference will do.
You'll be aware there's endless kind of chuntering about the leadership, especially with the polls where they are. Some of your colleagues are saying, oh, in November there might be a no confidence vote, or in May there might be a no confidence vote. I mean, what's your message to them?
Every single Conservative leader, every single leader has all of this stuff happening, and I don't let it distract me. I just make sure that I focus on the job which I've been given.
So you genuinely don't concern there might be a leadership challenge going on?
All I'm concerned about doing is a good job that explains what conservatism under Kemi Badenoch is about. It's not Rishi or Liz or Boris or Theresa or David Cameron's leadership. This is my leadership. Lots of people have seen different flavors of conservatism. This is the pure, authentic conservatism. Those principles are what are going to get us through this mess. And it's when we stopped following our principles, when we started doing big state stuff, when we started reducing liberties, that's when we ran into trouble. If we follow our instincts and our principles, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's talk about reform a bit. Why do you think they are surging so much in the polls? And do you think you have a strategy for countering that?
Yes. The reason why they're surging in the polls is because they're not Labour and they're not Conservatives. Conservatives...
But that's hard if you are the Conservatives.
Well, quite. But the point I'm making is that we had a historic defeat last year. Everybody knows that we had a long time in government. It doesn't matter that 5 years was in the coalition and we had those Brexit years where we didn't have a majority going round and round in circles. The Prime Minister was always a Conservative Prime Minister. And many people don't remember the good things we did, like on schools, for example, cutting the deficit, getting us through the pandemic. But we made mistakes. We've just left office. What is amazing is that Labour, with a historic landslide, now have the most unpopular Prime Minister ever. More unpopular than any Conservative Prime Minister who did tough stuff. He's not doing anything. He's just there. He can't get his welfare cuts through, he's giving away Chagos Islands, paying reparations to Mauritius. This is Labour student union politics in Parliament, and that is why they are super unpopular. So people are thinking, well, we just kicked these people out, and the government's not doing well. What else is out there? That's why reform is doing well. I need to show you've got a credible alternative. I know we made mistakes. I wasn't the one who made those mistakes. I am drawing a line under them. It's new leadership. Here is a proper plan that you can rely on, and I'm making sure that our party is full of people who believe in Conservative principles, not people who just want to be MPs and don't have those principles.
And you think there's a way of calling out Nigel Farage because he seems to be connecting with a chunk of the electorate right now?
Well, I think that he's a new story. So people keep asking, I keep getting asked about him. I'm interested in talking about what we're doing. This is a competitive political environment. Multi-party politics is emerging pretty much everywhere except the US. And when you have competition, what you do is improve your product. Moaning about the other people is not going to get you anywhere, which is why I don't understand what Keir Starmer is doing. The guy doesn't know how to do anything properly. But me saying, oh, reform is this, reform is that, is not really what people are looking for. They want to know what I'm about. And I can show them the difference between me and reform. They're a one-man band. We're a strong team. We have a proper plan. They've got just slogans. We treat our people properly. They come in with 4 MPs. They lose half of them, making allegations, reporting them to the police. All of this shenanigans, I don't have time for that. I'm here. I became an MP because I was interested in policy and making people's lives better. I'm not interested in the drama.
I've got to ask about Robert Jenrick.
Yes, of course.
You'll know a lot of people in the Westminster bubble say, look, he's still running a proto-Tory leadership campaign. Are you worried he's coming for your job?
Not at all. Rob is part of my team. I am the leader. We had a leadership contest. The party made a very emphatic decision, and I was very clear about the approach I was taking. I really like it when Rob goes out and says the things that we are pushing out there. He does it really well. He does it in his own special way, but that's fine. I want a team of people who do things differently, as long as we're all moving in the same direction. And I would quite rather be in my position with a strong team and have people like Rob in it than be in Labour's position where it's a whole bunch of incompetence, or with Reform where it's just a one-man band.
So when he wanders on to briefings like the economy, the Outsiders Justice Brief, you're kind of fine with that?
Well, one of the things that I know from experience is that when you stood in a leadership contest, you've already said a lot of the things that you personally believe, and you often get asked about that. I remember minding my own business, as business secretaries always do, and constantly being asked, oh, are you on manoeuvres? Are you doing this on your leadership bid? I was just doing my job. So I'm very sympathetic. I actually think that it's the other way around, that it's other people who are constantly asking these questions because they find them entertaining. I would rather be in a strong team with a Rob Jenrick than not have Rob and be Keir Starmer or Nigel Farage. I'm the lucky one.
And for those who claim he might be a better leader than you, I'm guessing it's a firm no to that.
Of course not, they're wrong. Nobody wins 100% of the vote. But there are some people who wanted us to leave the ECHR on day one. I decided that it was worth spending some political capital to make sure we did it right, then look like we were just lurching from one place to another. They might be unhappy, but I think what this process will show is that I've done this the right way. It's going to take time. We're not going to suddenly magically fix everything. But what I want people to know is that we've got a proper plan to fix the borders. If Labour's got any sense, they will pick up our plan and do it because it would help them in the polls. But they haven't got any sense, so I know they won't.